Hello and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show as Bill's wife goes and hides off into the dark corners of Casa de Oreo. How's everybody doing?
Everybody's good.
Great. Yeah, we got Brian Cade tonight. We got Eric, Bill, John, and of course, Pastor Jay is here to give his sermon tonight as well. Who was it that suggested to me that we should just do Record Roundup on the Tuesday Night Music Show? Who was that?
Eric.
Is that Eric?
No, I think Chase at the wheel, and I agreed with him.
I thought, oh yeah. Either way, I thought either way it's fine. It got brought up last.
We always have the records in the chamber. That's always always get space for that.
Well, I thought maybe we could kick the show off with something, and then maybe if we want to, if we got time, we could just put the roundup in here. If we don't, we'll make a separate show. How's that sound?
All right.
Okay. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So we've done this before, but sometimes it's interesting to go back and visit in retrospect. And I've given no one any warning on this, so you guys are all getting thrown into the pool cold. I think Brian will do fine with this. I think Eric will do fine with this. Jay, John, Bill, I think you all do fine with this. I think it's a perfect record, front to back. You put the needle on, listen to side A, flip it over, listen to side B. It's all good. Let's go around the room. What do you got? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
What do you got, Eric?
Rumours, Fleetwood Mac,
Yeah,
front to back. Easy.
fantastic record.
Yeah.
Why should people listen to Rumours? If you've never listened to it, why should they listen to it?
You've got to listen to it for you to understand what I'm getting at. I mean, every song seemed to be arranged. Look at Jay's laughing, but
No, it's there's so many
like
answers.
every
you
song
could
was
give.
arranged different. Right.
That just wasn't one of them.
Yeah. Well, what if I
Shut
we
up.
don't do our own answers? I'll shut up. Go.
No. That's a great album.
It is.
It's an interesting album because there's a lot of bitter stuff on there, but there's a lot of sweet stuff on there.
So
And it
why
shows
should they
in
listen to that album, Jay? You answer.
Well, if they could spend a year doing coke, breaking up with each other, and put out that kind of album, anything's possible.
I wasn't going to go.
Absolutely anything.
Jama makes hit singles. It certainly
No,
does.
yeah. If you want to know what pure emotion sounds like, listen to the Rumours album. Like every one of those songs is like legitimately from the heart.
You guys know that I really enjoy watching reaction videos on YouTube, and I'm probably alone on that. But
No, I like
one
watching
that-
them too.
the one that I get a real kick out of is when people react to the live 1997 Fleetwood Mac The Dance performance of Silver Springs, where Stevie Nicks is like screaming at Lindsay as she's singing the song. It's like you don't get that kind of passion on stage unless it's real, and that's very real. It's, if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's from Fleetwood Mac The Dance, and it's the performance of Silver Springs. It's amazing.
She's like singing through him like daggers.
She's screaming at him. She's in his face. It's scary. It's kind of, some people find it very uncomfortable to watch because they know the backstory. It's like, oh my God, I shouldn't be watching this. This just feels too personal. But it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
All those stage fights are real sometimes.
Sometimes. How about you, Bill?
James,
What say you? Perfect album.
Boston's first album.
Yeah, of course. That's a gimme. Why?
There's ballads, there's story, there's talent, there's raw sound for the time. It's just kind of a quintessential play it from the start till the end, and it brings you up and down all the way through. It was well put together in the songs that they placed in order too.
It's amazing that was a freshman effort too.
Yes.
And as Jay says often, you've got your whole life to come up with your first album, but the sophomore album's a little different.
Well, remember, he
You got
was
6
also
months
a
to do that,
perfection.
sucker.
Well, and that album probably took 7 years.
Yes.
Who knows?
Everyone forgets because Tom Schultz did it, 99% of it except for vocals in the basement in Watertown. Like he literally, he didn't like the sound of something. He spent 3 months waiting, got the transformers and transconducers and everything else, and
He's an
built what
MIT
he
guy.
wanted.
Yeah.
But
Funny
there's
to
a-
working at Polaroid. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great documentaries that show him physically playing through the album. where it's like, oh, and then I came up with this keyboard part for a long time,
Yeah.
foreplay, and it's like, it's like, whoa. But yeah, I think that's another example of passion. I think that's going to be the thread tonight. The great albums of all time have a passion to them that somebody wasn't willing to give up on it.
Brian's gonna talk about Debbie Gibson's Electric Youth, right? No, okay. What are you gonna bring us?
Well, you said taking time to their second album's never good, but to me, Carole King's Tapestry, her second album
Classic.
Wow.
is
100%.
I didn't say it was never good. I said it's hard. It's tough.
It's harder to come up with a good sophomore record than it is a good freshman record.
Tapestry's amazing, and I
Tapestry's
know
iconic.
yeah, one of my favorite albums. One of the
Top
best
10 albums
ever.
of all time, I would dare say.
Yeah.
I remember my mom bought this tribute to Tapestry, and it was really good. And it had like Rod Stewart doing "You're So Far Away," and I think Amy Grant did "It's Too Late." There were all these famous people doing the Carole King songs, and they were all bangers, every single one of them. It's like hit after hit after hit after hit. Every song is good on that album. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, she comes out of 1650 Broadway, the Brill Building, which was writers that literally showed up at 9 a.m. and wrote songs till 5 and went home.
Yeah.
So she came from that world. Neil Sedaka was there, and the late, great, in my opinion, former owner of DJ Expo, Mr. Testa.
Oh wow. Was
Vinny Testa was a writer at 1650 Brill.
Wow.
He used to work for Don Kirshner, and he started as a writer. He wrote when Carole King was there and when Neil Sedaka was there. That was that crew of just, I love what I do, and I do it in 8 hours a day, and I do it for free, but I do need the money to pay rent.
I knew all this. I knew Vinny, but I didn't know any of this. It's cool. So
he came around like a tough guy all the time, and people wouldn't approach him. And I read his bio.
Oh, I love Vinny. He was a nice guy.
I did too, but I read his bio one year, and I went up to him and I said, I grew up watching Don Kirshner's rock concert, and his eyes just glowed. And the next 4 years or 5 years that he was still there, the first day of the show, he would always come and be like, "Where's Davey?" and fly past everyone. And Davey was there the next year, and he came in the booth, and there's Davey, and he goes, "Hey, Vinny," and Vinny goes, "Hold on." He came over and gave me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. He's like, "How are you?" I'm like, "Good. How are you?" And I would go by the front and just say, "Do you know the legend you're working with?" And he'd be like, "Please stop." I said, 1650 Broadway? And he goes, "They don't understand." I go, "They need to understand."
Do you know a specific song that he wrote?
I don't, but he's got credit. I think he wrote something for Kenny Rogers at one point that got published, but he's published. I know that.
I would be really curious to see. I mean, it would be easy enough on Discogs, so just type in Vinny Testa and see what comes up.
Yeah, but I think he was much more support than he was like frontline, but he was a writer.
Right
And then
on.
he ended up working with Don Kirshner.
That's a
So,
really good, it's a really good pick, Brian. I like it. John, what do you got for us?
Well, sometimes it takes you all the way to the fourth album that takes you 3 years to write when you have some setbacks, like perhaps a drummer losing his arm and changing production midstream. But I would have to throw the nod to Hysteria from '87. Produced
great.
6 number one hit singles, and that's much to the hard work of Mutt Lange, Robert John Mutt Lange, who was just a firecracker in the studio working with bands like AC/DC and Foreigner, and just putting out quality content. And when
Twain.
it said Boston, I was thinking just in the level of the production of the album itself.
Oh, yeah. Really good.
You know, just whatever he had his hands in. And I guess he was a little complicated to work with. He's kind of a perfectionist,
A lot.
a lot of perfectionist. So, I mean, they're tracking guitars a string at a time just to get them to ring and sound the right way, and just recording stuff over and over and over to just try to get that sonic perfection. And as I say, six out of 12 on the record got on the charts. And
well, I remember
very well. So,
listening to that, and then I don't know, for some reason, the way it was arranged on the album was really good. I mean, for a front to back listen,
the flow is
There's
good.
no
it
Absolutely.
was
mistakes.
very good.
That's all intentional and deliberate. That's all part of
I
the
can't
part of it,
remember,
too, is-
and it's been so long since I've listened to that album, but whatever was before Animal, I remember I was enjoying it. And every time when Animal would kick in, I just get a shiver up my spine. It was so good the way that was programmed on the record. It was really nice. So that was done really well too, just the arrangement of the record itself.
Yeah.
But when you get a record,
It was Women, Rocket, and I think Animal was third, right? And then Hysteria followed, or
And Rocket was the first single, much to the dismay of the band. They wanted Woman or Women, and Women was a better song than Rocket.
we got that as the first single out here on the East Coast. That was the first one that got on the radio.
Right. But I remember hearing that and buying this CD, because that was also one of the first cassettes / CDs that broke 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a huge thing.
Serious misunderstood lyrics on that album.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first heard Pour Some Sugar on Me, I knew they were singing possum shooting all day.
I'm
I'm like, well, this is a weird thing to sing about. Possum shooting all day.
Sure. Yeah.
Why? Why are you singing about this? So, yeah.
Oh, I wish I knew the quote. The Haktui girl
Yeah.
Oh.
was on Bill Maher, and she goes, he's talking about rappers. She's like, yeah, Jay-Z, I love that song.
Oh, I know which one.
York,
Yeah.
something, naked tomatoes. And the line is like,
Yeah.
something like where dreams are made of. And she comes up with like,
Naked tomato.
naked tomato
tomatoes.
something. And I'm like, and he just looks at her like, what? You think that's what they say?
I always thought it was I feel like a wintry tomato, but she even took it further. She even screwed up the I feel like or whatever. It was like
wintry
a
tomato.
Yeah. What dream tomato or something. That's
You
what
hear the word tomato clearly. You hear the word tomato. Yeah.
Something dreams are made of. But I can't remember the first two legit words, but she got tomato out of it. So
What's your album, Jay?
well, it's funny. I was going to, and I stand by my statement about passion, because every album and example I was brought up tonight reeks of passion and work and dedication and talent. And I had two come to mind. The first one was Def Leppard, but I was going to go with Pyromania. Because
That's
for
a
a
really
listening
good album.
experience, I don't think there's a bad track on it.
You're right. You're right.
There really isn't. But then I said, okay, when John mentioned that, my, backup album, oddly enough, another Mutt Lange example. And I think sometimes out of tragedy can come beauty. And to this day, 44 years later, I defy you to find something close in the way of a hard rock album like AC/DC Back in Black.
No, it's very iconic.
I mean, just from that iconic ringing of the bell for Hell's Bells, because I did have the record, and just remember dropping the needle, and it just, you hear that the popping of the vinyl, and then this bell rings out, and you're like, whoa. And it just keeps going. I mean, the slowest track on that is Let Me Put My Love Into You.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's side 2. I think side 1 ends with Have a Drink on Me. Because I played it so many times in my room.
Right.
I just remember when I heard Have a Drink on Me, okay, time to pick it up and move it. And I want to say side 2 opens with like Shoot to Thrill. I could be totally wrong. It's just, it's a memory of like, oh, I remember turning it over and it again went right back into bang.
There's no skippers, no skips on that record. You let it play through. That's
right. I mean, giving the dog a bone, like
all the way to Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution that ends up just like, man, this is just heavy.
It's a great album.
Sounded good. Yeah.
When I say front to back, you're allowed a dud here and there. It's okay. You can have that one I sit through, but
I think everyone's examples tonight. I certainly can't name a dud on any of them.
I'll give you one more round if you want to go.
Without them being greatest hits record, which is the special trick. These aren't the greatest hits record.
Oh no, this is
an actual release.
None of these are we just compiled 20 of my greatest songs.
You could say Steve Miller's the best of. It's like, of course they're all going to be good. It's the greatest hits record.
But here's a kudo though. Both John and Jay had Def Leppard in their head for this.
Yeah.
Big call. That's a big.
I don't think radio was ready for more than 3 rock singles getting on the radio. There are some other great songs on Pyromania, but after Foolin' and Rock Rock of Ages, Photograph, which crushed, and that's like, okay, we're kind of done with that. And there were other ones that they could, if they pushed a little further, they probably get a fourth or fifth single, which is why I think they spent the time on
it's
Hysteria.
a time of when MTV actually played videos.
Right.
And
Billy's Got a Gun. I mean,
yeah, well, like Michael's Thriller. I mean, that was 4 or 5 hit singles, and that might be if you want me to lead in the next round, because someone's going to bound to hit Thriller.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see how.
I didn't think Baby Be Mine was great. Girl Is Mine with McCartney was meh. I mean, it wasn't full of bangers, but there was definitely some
it was good
weight on that record.
Pretty damn good. I mean,
and it might be too deep for everybody, but I would even say that not on Through the Night, High and Dry. I mean, I spent days listening to the album, Def Leppard's High and Dry, and again, not a skip track on it.
I'm gonna jump in and give you an album from this century, because it's hard when us old guys are talking about music to jump into the 21st century with this.
Did I mention Al Jolson? I'll do that in the next round.
Eric will.
I barely get
Eric knew him.
Stop it. I was thinking Herb Albert. Knock it off.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, to buy vinyl too. I mean, that kind of ended. So
yeah, well, I mean, even if you bought this, even the CD or whatever, just the collection of a release. And Jay will pick on me for this one, but I got to go with Daft Punk's Discovery. It's a fantastic album front to back.
It's a really good album.
Fantastic. There's one track on the album that we'll just say isn't my favorite, but I'll listen to it. It's not worth me getting up and changing it. It's not that bad.
Right.
That would be Superheroes. That is not my favorite song that they do. But the album itself, I think it's their best album. I mean, a lot of people argue it would be Homework. Homework is really good, but I really appreciate what they did with Discovery, because it's exactly that. I mean, it took me years to figure out why they called it Discovery, and it's because I spent many years chasing down the samples that they did not list on any of the liner notes, and found not all of them, but a lot of them, and even was able to recreate some of them. That was my discovery. And there were some tracks I wasn't familiar with. Well, most of the tracks I wasn't familiar with.
Do you think that because they're so ahead of themselves, do you think that they cognizantly sat there and said, let's make something out of everyone else's music to the point that people will spend time researching it? Because you can't throw a rock on YouTube without it hitting we found another Daft Punk sample at 3 minutes and 6 seconds for exactly 1/1,000,000th of a second. See, this is from this song. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, so it's so apt that you would say Discovery.
Yeah.
In that people are trying to discover tracks on those albums. So
yeah, I mean, I certainly was. The album kept my attention. It still does keep my attention to this day. Because
here's a throw for you, Brian. Does a best of album count?
Well, I mean, do what you want, but I think it's cool to just grab that collection, Personally, I think it's cool. Of course, the greatest hits albums are going to be great.
But that's the problem with greatest hits. They're by design, they're great. I think the organic appeal of here's this album, and I almost feel
it's a collection of work.
Yeah, I'm not saying this against you, Bill, but I almost feel sometimes when people say, hey, what should I listen to find out more about this band? Like if I'm getting into a band and I go, oh man, I just found this band. What should I listen to? And they go, oh, check out their greatest hits. It's like, yeah, but I'm probably missing better tracks.
As a DJ, I think that's the smart thing to do. But as a music listener, it's not doing you a service to get the greatest hits. But as a DJ, it's economically viable to get the greatest hits album.
No, 100%.
Right. We only have so much space to carry. But that way.
Right.
Even I would have to send you to Tom Petty's greatest hits because it's like 16 tracks and there's nothing on it.
Yeah, it's all the stuff.
Greatness.
You're not going to need anything else than that. But as a listener, check the album out, because there's so many great albums that the stuff was designed to go together. I remember like Prince's Love Sexy. Was an interesting one. And I'm not suggesting it's one of the greatest albums to listen to. Well, what I'm saying is, CDs were happening. I was buying all CD at that time, for my personal listening. And he made the CD untrackable. The CD was one track. He wanted to force the listener to listen to the entire album.
Yeah.
And not skip around to the hits.
Okay.
Because he created a collection of work that was, he put it together, he arranged it like this, and they were to go together and somehow complement each other, which is what a really cool album does sometimes too. I will yield to the man from Woburn, Mass.
Woburn, Mass. In my car.
In your
Near
car, in the
Worcester.
yard.
And
Parked it.
Haverhill.
Oh my God. Listen, guys, I'm going to go with an album, and I don't care if you make fun of me or not. But
We're not going to make
Jay,
fun
well,
of
Jay
it. You
will
can
anyway,
pick a
doesn't matter.
78.
Try our
If
best.
you want to pick a 78.
I'm not even. I'm going to go into the 80s.
Okay.
And this album had none other than Eddie Van Halen appear on it. This album had Paul McCartney on it. This album had Vincent Price on it.
I can't imagine where he's
I
going.
have no idea what you're talking about, dude.
Might
Yeah.
be
That little mention.
that record.
Every
Hit that
single
pose.
except one.
They hit the pose.
Every track except one, I think, was a single. Am I correct on this album?
Baby Be Mine.
There were
Almost
Baby
all
Be
of them
Mine
were.
and Lady in My
Baby Be
Life.
Mine was
Lady in My
not a
Life
single.
was a pretty song. I've used that for a slow.
Yeah, and I think it got a lot of R&B airplay.
But here's one. All I'm
Okay.
going to say, if you're a DJ back in the 80s, you got your money's worth if you bought this album. That's
Well,
all.
yeah. And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
didn't have it, you were
And it was-
fired.
Right. It was just one of those things where, I mean, we could go with the greatest hits. I was going to say the Eagles, but
Eagles.
well, who
Eagles.
don't like the Eagles, right?
No,
Greatest hits for me would have been something like Wings.
I'm giving up on this fight, you know. It's just I've tried and it doesn't go anywhere. So
Oh.
I mean, I did. I tried.
There
But you
was a
know
lot
what?
of bang for the
No,
buck.
no, that's a great album, Eric. It really is. You're right. I think most
No,
of
it
them
is.
came out as singles.
Produced by Quincy Jones.
A whole lot of Toto. A whole lot of Toto going on.
A lot of Toto. In
A lot of
fact,
Toto in there.
yeah, Human Nature was supposed to be a Toto song.
Wow.
They gave it to him.
We'll get to that with the record
The
round.
PYT, that was a lucrative thing too, right? That
I'm going to go a little
I don't think
obscure
so.
with the next album. How about Amy Winehouse? Back to Black.
Wow.
You know, I've never listened to that album in its entirety.
It's so good.
Is it?
It really, really is. And it's one of those that she probably would have taken. Maybe her second or third album wouldn't have been as good, but she'll come out with a fourth that would have probably been a banger after that. But yeah, that album itself has so many good songs on it.
I've never even given it a look.
aside from Rehab and Valerie, the song that she did, the
I
live
don't-
version of Valerie is
She
really,
did
really
that
good. I don't know
back
if
to
that's on
black on that too, and
Yeah, Back to Black's on it.
Yeah.
What else?
she had a couple
Me and
other
Mr.
ones that we
Jones
can't
was on
mention
it.
on here. On that, yeah. Something about
Rehab's on it,
blank
obviously.
me pumps. I think was
Yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Friends.
It's a shame she didn't stick around longer. I mean, she probably could have given us so much more, but I mean, that was just the culture that
She's
took her
part of
away.
the 27 Club.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Brian, you always have a good one.
1983.
Okay.
Debut album.
Okay. Okay.
It had 5 singles on it.
Oh,
Not Paula.
5
a
out
lot of
of
singles.
5 out of 8 songs.
Hit single. Wow.
Yeah. Madonna's first album.
Oh,
Yes.
Madonna.
produced by Jellybean Benitez. Yes. Front to back. Great album.
Great album.
And to this day, I'm still playing the album versions of those songs. I'm not doing the remixes. I'm not doing the singles. I'm doing the album version of those songs.
Right. Better than the Immaculate Conception version.
In
A lot of
concert,
them.
when I saw her in concert this year, she doing Burning Up. She played, first time she ever played it was at CBGB's.
Wow. Nice.
And again, going back to MTV, great videos with those songs.
Burn It Up was very,
She was in a rowboat.
that was like a version.
No, there was one. And if you go back to Burning Up, I swear to God, she's in water.
I can't remember the video.
Remember we're on a street at
like
night.
a virgin, she's out in that thing.
You're right. You're right. She's in the gondola or whatever.
Papa Don't Preach.
But I swear in Burning Up, she's on the street at night, but I swear there's like a small rowboat thing in the video.
Huh. It
I
might be.
can't remember the video.
I'll have to check the video again.
Was it in a swamp?
Ish.
She was very
Yeah,
fluid.
I'm kind of recalling.
You know what
this
I'm
now that
talking
you're
about?
saying
She
it.
was kind of floating, lying in the boat while she was singing.
kind of in a swamp.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
East River. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And
I didn't
no, it
mean
was
that
like
to be a joke. I meant it like
No.
I think I'm remembering you're in a swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. To brush up on my Madonna videos. It's been a while. That is a really good one. You had
That'd be
that
a good show,
obviously. Did you buy it when it came out?
No, I didn't have it
You
originally.
didn't buy it?
No,
Holiday.
I do
hit
have
me
the
hard.
album though.
Holiday hit me really hard. And then the next one to hit me really hard was Borderline.
That was
and
the
it-
first time.
It took me a while to warm up to Lucky Star, but once I did, I loved it. And yeah,
That's what's there.
It was a great one to mix into.
Everybody first single.
yep. It's good stuff. John,
Holiday.
what do you got, John?
Well, I got another one with no skippers, but it's not a band. It's actually going to be a soundtrack. And then I'm going to have to call back to the three strapping lads from formerly Australia with the Bee Gees and the Saturday Night Fever, which gave us a little taste of a bunch of different things. And that was double record set. And I played every single song on that in the history of my career since it was, you had the right Bee Gees when you needed them. You had, Don't Leave Me This Way, I think was on that. We had
No. If I
What's the
Can't
one I'm
Have
thinking
You,
of?
Von Elmer
Can't Have
was
You.
on that.
right.
Yeah.
Right here.
And then there was
Open
a
Sesame, Cool and the Gang was on
Wasn't
there.
there some mountain, Disco Mountain?
Night on Disco Mountain was
Mountain.
on there.
Yeah.
I was looking for
A
love,
fifth of
Johnny Lee on
Beethoven,
there.
Walter Murphy was on
Yeah,
there.
Beethoven. Wow.
Da-da-da-da,
That Beethoven.
da-da-da-da.
That was spunky.
You know what? That's a great backbeat to talk over.
Oh, that's a great song, period. I mean, I remember
is,
hearing
but
on the
to
radio.
Yeah, that's a
drop
good
it as-
bumper. Like
as
if that's like in your background and you're doing like an announcement or
Yeah.
something, or like a bumper. Yeah, that would.
And
Totally
and
right.
they took Traveris Disco Inferno and sped it up and made it a disco single that it was, because it was the original release of that is at regular speed.
Yeah,
It's
a little
much slower.
lackluster. Yeah.
And they just like took the pitch and just slammed it up to like 6 and did Disco Inferno and chipmunked them, and it worked, and it was a hit.
But got a lot of spin time on that record. There was just plenty.
Oh.
Everything that you got the big stuff from the Bee Gees. You had You Should Be Dancing. You had Night Fever. You had More Than a Woman. I
What
think
was
both versions,
KC and the
right?
Sunshine Band song on that record?
Boogie Shoes.
Boogie Shoes.
Boogie Shoes. That's right.
Another one of my favorites by them. I always loved that song. by the
Just,
way.
you know what's funny? That's a tougher one to mix into.
Oh, it's bad. It's
Stuff with live bands is always awful. To try
It's
to
a
mix.
pain in the
It's
ass.
just It all depends how the
Try
drum was
Ladies
feeling
Night.
that
You got
day.
your choice: 109 when it starts or 120 when it ends.
You're right.
Yes.
You just keep chasing that pitch.
Give it a little pinch on the spindle, or a little
A little
bump on
something.
the side. Yeah, a little
Or
bump
back
on the
in the
side. I
day,
think explain
Wet
the drummer.
finger and
Good pick. Jay,
Yep.
what do you got?
Well, after John said soundtrack, I went right to The Crow, but I'm not going to do The Crow. I'm going to bring you back to the 60s.
Uh-oh.
And the younger viewers, those of you under the age of 50, who are watching tonight, may not realize that back in the day, albums were what you would call short. So I'm going to give you the entire 8 songs that
Well, it's going to be an
are on-
Aerosmith album, isn't it?
No,
The early
close.
Aerosmith.
Close.
60s.
A band that influenced Aerosmith big time.
Okay, so it's
I am-
Stones.
I am
Yeah.
I
No?
am going with Led Zeppelin 2.
Oh,
Ooh.
Now, when you say I want to hear some Led Zeppelin, try this for side 1. Whole Lot of Love, What Is and What Should Never Be, the Lemon
Beautiful.
Song, and it ends with Thank You. One of the most underrated love songs
yeah, it's a great
of all
song.
time. Side 2, Heartbreaker, Livin' Lovin' Made, Ramble On, Moby Dick, and it ends with Bring It On Home.
How long is Moby Dick on Led Zeppelin 2? Because on Song Remains the Same, it's like a 15-minute long song.
I want to say it's like 8 minutes, maybe.
It's so long,
7, 8.
yeah.
It's long.
Yeah.
But it's an instrumental, and it certainly shows off John Bonham's drumming.
Yeah, it's a
But I
drum
mean, as
solo.
far as throwing a record on and dropping on to track one and playing straight through. I mean, where do you say, oh, I don't want to hear Livin', Lovin', Made? Come on, you have to. It runs right out of
You can't
Heartbreaker.
out of Heartbreaker.
Just
You
let it
can't.
go.
You can't
But
cut
I
it.
mean,
No.
you get to Thank You, and you're like all depressed about it. Like, oh my God, I do love her more than when the sun meets the sky and mountains fall into the sea. And like, it's just, but I looked over Led Zeppelin 3 and the Untitled. We all call Led Zeppelin 4. It's actually technically called the Untitled.
Led Zeppelin side 2. Wasn't that in the
I
movie?
like Ruins.
Side 2 of Led Zeppelin 4, yes.
That was in one of the
no, you know
Cusack
what's
movies.
And they
Stupid
play
about that?
Cashmere, which is on Physical
No,
Graffiti.
which is
That was
not. That's on
bullcrap.
Houses of the Holy, right?
What?
Isn't
Fast
Houses
Times
of
at Ridgemont High.
Cashmere? Isn't that on
Cashmere's
Houses
on
of the Holy?
Physical
2 of
Graffiti,
Led
dude.
Zeppelin 4.
I mean, Physical Graffiti. Yeah, it's not on Led Zeppelin 4 or
No.
Untitled.
Yeah, and that's what was so funny
Untitled's
about
this-
it.
Yeah, the brown one.
I know, but that's the thing. You go to Untitled, and it runs the same exact gamut. You're like Black Dog, Rock and Roll, The Battle of Evermore, Stairway to Heaven. Then Misty Mountain Hop, Four Sticks, Going to California, and When the Levee Breaks.
They got a formula.
Yeah, they do. And it's called 4 tracks aside, make them all bangers, and then go on to the next tour.
and put them in an order that flows, because that's the whole thing, is that you have to, if you're
Oh,
experiencing.
you can't open with Stairway to Heaven. Yeah,
Right,
they
yeah.
knew that.
Yeah, that's the secret. That's the end of the side song. Like, wait till they get to the end of the side and see the song that'll be around forever and immortalized.
Well, I would
One of the
love to
greatest songs
do
ever written. Yeah,
planned. I mean, because obviously all these albums are planned. Nobody's shooting from the hip going, I don't know where the hell to put Stairway. But there are,
there's a plan. There's a plan in place.
there are
for sure.
albums that tell stories. Famously Tommy by The Who, Quadrophenia by The Who, and certainly Operation Mindcrime
Floyd.
by The Wall.
he's-
Absolutely.
Well,
And
even
Lloyd's very
Operation
deliberate with
Mindcrime
placement.
by Queensryche. Like, you have to listen track one to
Right.
the last track. Otherwise, it screws the stories up.
right.
What do you got, Brian?
I'm going to go with one that I know I've mentioned before, but it's just so good. And it's not quintessential work from this artist, but seeing how we were just in Philadelphia, most of us were just in Philadelphia
Yep.
for a flight, got me thinking about Philly Soul. And one of my favorite Philly Soul albums, believe it or not, is David Bowie with Young Americans.
Mm.
That is an amazing album front to back. And it doesn't sound like anything else he did. And you know Golden Years, and you know Fame.
Yep.
I mean, there's songs that you know on this album, but the rest of them you don't know, and they're really good. Like, these tracks are just dripping with soul. They're so nice.
Well, Luther Vandross did background on that album, too.
Luther
right?
Vandross was on that album. David
Yep.
Sanborn was on that album.
Yeah.
And John Lennon was on that album.
He picked the right people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
What did,
good stuff.
and people don't speak about him that way, but do you ever notice, if you look back on Bowie's career, how the way Bowie looked, like 5 years later, everybody
else looked like that.
Yeah, but he looked like something
he's
else
a
by that point.
trendsetter.
He was already on to the next
But
thing.
he was always so far ahead of it. And his ability to pick musicians. I mean, Earl Slick played guitar for him for like a very long time. Mick Ronson played guitar for him. I mean, Mick Ronson's one of the most influential players. But then out of nowhere, Bowie suddenly finds a young, spry Stevie Ray Vaughan and goes, yeah, I'm doing an album with Niles Rodgers. Why don't you play the guitar part that Niles is writing? And actually, let's update and bluesify Cat People. And it was even better than the original, which is amazing.
Well, what's cool about
Like, who
Bowie-
does that?
What's cool about Bowie that I always enjoyed, sometimes I didn't get it, but I always enjoyed it, was that, and then getting this information later on down the road, I was like, oh, that's why. He never considered himself a musician. He considered himself a performance artist. He started as a mime, of all things. He was a mime. And then he went into doing music. But he
I
was
wish Eric had.
Huh?
What? Who said that?
he was that guy who would just, he loved art and he would bring artists together to create. And that's why he always had somebody else producing his stuff. That was their art. That was their contribution to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, an interesting way to approach the stuff. It wasn't all about him, like some artists we could talk about, but we're not today. It was about the collective. It was about the artist collective and about making great art together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool.
And the tie-in with the life experience, like you say, he was in New York and with Warhol, and that changed his sound. And
He
he's
did
no longer
Berlin.
Diamond Dogs. Now he's this.
Exactly.
Like so
No, he's blonde and he looks like he's going to the beach. What's going on here? Okay, let's.
He hooked up. He did a bunch of stuff with the Stooge Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop wrote a bunch of songs on his album, and he took him in.
Yeah, Iggy Pop wrote China Girl, right?
Yeah,
they lived together in Berlin for a long time. Yeah.
But what the part where Bowie becomes human to me is when you hear I think it's Heroes, and he mentions kissing next to the wall. And it's based on him looking out a window, and the producer was kissing his girlfriend goodbye at the Berlin Wall.
Right. You were talking
and it's
about
like,
that.
wait a second, it's a real thing? Like, I thought he wrote from some, like, astral plane kind of...
Metaphorical kind of...
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I think, fun fact, again, for those of you under the age of 75 who may know who this artist is, Mr. Bowie, a.k.a. Davy Jones, in school had a teacher who had a son.
Yes.
And they met when they were very young, and on the Spiders from Mars tour.
Was it Spiders from Mars or
Glass Spiders? Glass Spider, thank you.
Spider, that was in the 80s.
He brought this guitar singer out on tour with him, and that would be because Mr. Davy Jones' teacher was Peter Frampton's dad.
Wow.
So Bowie and Frampton have known each other since they were like 9.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, crazy.
Something like that. Yeah.
But Bowie always had the best, like, as a guitar player, you watch players go and you hear things, you go, damn, how do you get that sound? Who is that? Yeah. And Bowie just had a collective of musicians that just defied description, but they
just got cooler and cooler as he got older.
It changed him in and out like tuxedo jackets. Be like, oh, I need this guy for this record, and just poof.
Well, I mean,
you look at Bowie doing like Space Oddity, and the guy is scary looking. You're like, oh my god, this guy doesn't look healthy. And then you see Bowie, literally 40 years later, and he's the most handsome man you've ever seen in your life.
But still, 5 years
he was
ahead
that guy.
Of the curves.
He's that guy. He was just crazy.
Consistent reinvention, and that kept him fresh until the day he passed, sadly. Even Black Star doesn't sound like anything he did.
I love that album.
I think Bowie was almost like a Zappa type, that he knew how to put everything together for the final product. Well,
in that regard,
And the correlation is Adrian Belew, who is, and if you want to talk out there guitar players, listen to Adrian Belew sometimes. Bowie picked Adrian Belew up for a couple albums because he wanted that thing that Adrian did with Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
So he was obviously listening to the rest of the world of music.
He was. Yeah.
Because there's no way he could have just he found Stevie Ray Vaughan in Montserrat over in Sweden at the Jazz Fest they have every year. I believe it's pronounced Montserrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Close and Stevie Ray Vaughan played there and was booted off stage. His first time there, and Bowie was there. And Bowie's response was like, get this kid's ass in my studio now. You're going to play on this album.
Potential.
Yeah, he got
It's going to blow up.
He got it. Yeah, he was a connoisseur and lover of pulp culture, and he just in that regard alone. I mean, when you listen to an album like Young Americans, if you take the challenge and give it a try, front to back, he was just a fan of Philly soul, and he wanted to do a Philly soul album, so he did, and he did a great one with Young Americans. It's iconic.
Yeah,
on so many levels. So do check out if you get a chance.
100%.
Anybody want to go another round, or are you guys burnt out?
I'll keep going. I don't care.
We got time for one more before
I got stamina.
We love talking music. That's what
I know. These guys have got something.
Music.
I know Eric's got something. I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
Well, he mentioned last night that he was around. What was it? Beethoven's second or third that you recall when he was? No.
His movement. I think he was a janitor back then. Yeah, it was Beethoven's movement.
What do you got, Eric?
If John went soundtrack, I'm going soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. You want to do a round of soundtracks?
Let's do soundtrack.
Let's
Let's
do all
do a
around
soundtrack.
I like yeah.
Here we go. I got Good Morning Vietnam. You name it, it's on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Front to back. It's not going to fail you. I mean, again, there's going to be tracks that you may not
There
like.
has some heavy hitters on
I
there.
mean, there is a lot of heavy hitters on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's my pick. That's my final answer. Next.
Whoa! Drop in the invisible
Dropping
mic.
the
'cause we
mic.
don't drop
there's no mic
No,
dropping
we
in
don't
here.
drop
No,
real
no, no.
mics. Invisible.
Yeah.
You give them the phone ones to
Invisible.
drop, or the
Don't worry.
inflatable
It's not a singing mic, Jay. It's a,
It's a speech mic.
Yeah.
Speech mic, yeah.
It's a little karaoke mic.
Bill's Googling. I can tell.
No, I'm not. Better Off Dead.
That's an interesting soundtrack.
They had some
It's
fun
a
ones.
very interesting.
It's got Muddy Waters on it. It's got
Got Van
Howard
Halen. It's got
Jones
Everybody
on it.
Wants
It's
Some.
got Van Halen on it.
Yeah.
And who's
the Dancing Hamburger?
Who's
No,
the
I'm
band that does the original Better Off Dead song? Who is that band? There's somebody. I mean, they're not real famous, but there's somebody. The girl. What else is on there?
Oh,
I'm
jeez.
not familiar with that.
Better Off Dead soundtrack. It's got Everybody Wants Some by Van Halen off of Fair Warning, I believe. It's got Like to Get to Know You Well, Howard Jones. I'm going off the top of my head. It's got Managed Boy, Muddy Waters.
Yep.
What am I missing here? What else is on there? It's rattled a bunch of stuff off. It's good though. You're right. It's good.
It's unique. It's different. It's like the other one with Val Kilmer when he was the nerdy college guy. That one's a good song.
The only thing I know off of that album is Tears for Fears. Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
That put that song on the map. I'll tell you.
But Songs from the Big Share, that album did just fine all on its own. I'm just trying to think of what else is on the Better Off. It's a good soundtrack. It's good. And then there's that band that did those original songs for the movie, and I don't recall what they were off the top.
Waking Up Is Hard to Do's on it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a sequence when he's turning through the radio dial.
Yep.
And every song's a breakup song. I think She's Gone by Hall & Oates is on there. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. There's a bunch of them right there that he tunes through. I watched that movie a lot because he was building a 67 Camaro in it, and I was very interested in 67 Camaros. So I watched that movie over and over again.
And if you ever have to DJ and I'm Single Again party, that's the soundtrack you want to have because that's all the bangers you're going to want to drop. All the single ladies. Right, it's just like...
It's funny is it's not a soundtrack, but a song that came with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ice.
Oh, nice.
No.
there was another.
Jeez, just went right out of my head. I'll come up with it. Skip on. I'll come out.
Brian, your soundtrack pick.
Jay likes this one, I think. 1987, Less Than Zero.
Oh, yes. Great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Interesting
Hazy
soundtrack.
Shade of Winter from Bang.
I'm thinking going back to
Slayer's on
Cali
that
is on
too.
there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Slayer's on there.
Yeah.
Going back to Cali, Slayer,
Rockin' Pneumonia,
Poison.
Boogie Woogie Flu, the Poison. Yeah,
That's
the Aerosmith
Poison.
track, the Lost Aerosmith track is on there that never got released.
Yep.
Yep.
That's a good call, Brian. That's actually a very almost a deep cut soundtrack
Man,
because it's other bands covering tracks.
I have that soundtrack, and what they were supposed to do on it was put a sticker on the front of it that said Less Than Zero. It's a pool. It's the pool in the house with the glass wall behind it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mine doesn't have the sticker on it, so it's kind of rare. It didn't get the
Oh
sticker.
wow,
Yeah, so it's just the blank.
that's awesome.
It's
That
back
one
to
song I was thinking of, Teenage Mutant Tarzan Boy.
Baltimore.
Everybody forgets about.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah.
It is actually a good song, but it's the only one really off the soundtrack that made it. But
I like 3 different versions of that, and they're all in different keys. It's just, I guess, it depends on where you are in the mix, which one you play. They're all.
I'll go with the A sharp over here.
Go
A sharp. All right. A sharp. Oh,
Jay, what's yours?
Well, I want to hear John's first because I'm
John.
going in order here.
Okay.
Like soundtracks that just crushed that you always had to have with you. You had to have Footloose with you because you've got the title track. You got Let's Hear It for the Boy.
Yeah.
You get was it Almost Paradise land on that?
Almost
right?
Paradise,
Yes.
Dancing in the Sheets.
Dancing in the Sheets
Yep.
was great. You get a
I'm
Bonnie,
Free.
there's a Bonnie
I'm
Tyler
Free is
track on
my
there that
favorite
was
track
Total
on
Eclipse
there.
of the Heart.
Total Eclipse, right? So
That's good.
that's just that's well worth
Bangers
the
on there.
What's your
$8.99.
favorite song on that soundtrack?
I'm Free.
What I get the
Hands
most
down.
traction out of? It's probably Let's Hear It for the Boy because it gets all the
Let's Hear It for the
Yeah.
Boy.
That's for
I'm
some
a Dancing in the
reason.
Sheets guy. I love that.
Oh, Shalimar's
That's a really good track.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Out of all
I
the
played a
songs,
fair amount to that too.
I'd have to go Dancing in the
Oh, I
Sheets.
don't remember this one. Like, oh yeah.
I'm going more on what I would
like
listen
second time
to.
around, or
I don't think I've ever
Remember.
played I'm Free at a gig. I've listened to it a billion times. I love that track.
Yeah, it's a good
But
song.
I'm looking at it more from the perspective of just you're going to find bangers throughout.
You're going to sit
And
at
so
home,
far,
drop
everyone's
it on, and you're
soundtracks
going
have
to
hit.
enjoy it.
Yeah, you're just going to say, "Whoa, this is kind of all over the place." I mean, Mike Reno and Nancy Wilson,
yeah,
Almost
song.
Paradise.
beautiful track.
Yeah. It's an interesting, the bridge in that song I thought was vocally very interesting. The way they really go sharp on the spend the night with you.
Yeah.
How would I have known? I always thought that was interesting how they did that. I never heard that before. All right.
100%.
Go ahead.
All right. I am going to give you something that I played as recently as a month ago at an event.
Taps. No, go ahead.
No.
Taps.
And I keep this because I loved the movie.
Mother
I
Jugs
loved
and
the
Speed?
soundtrack.
Okay.
And I think that I'm going to get a lot of whoa. Forgot about that. Don't even know that. Whatever.
Okay.
Of course, I got to go to the homeland. Got to go back to where it all began.
Back to the roots.
Back to the
that
roots.
dirty water.
And there's 14
Potatoes.
tracks in this album. Every single one of them is what I would consider, and Brian, correct me,
Train Spotting?
I would consider all of these Northern Soul.
Okay.
They're all American R&B, but they're covers
Yeah.
on this
Oh,
soundtrack.
I know where you're going with this. I know exactly where you're going with this.
And of course, we are talking about a movie. If you have not seen it, I suggest you do. The Commitments.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And Mustang Sally, great version. Take
Yeah.
Me to the River, that's my go-to. Chain of Fools, play it. Dark End of the Street, you need something kind of a chill R&B track. They do amazing. Destination Anywhere is a great breaking dinner into dancing because it starts kind of on a slow note and then picks up quickly. Try a Little Tenderness. They do a huge orchestration on it. Treat Me Right. Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. Mr. Pitiful. Never Loved a Man. In the Midnight Hour. Amazing. Bye Bye Baby and Slip Away. And I swear to you, there's 5 tracks on this that I can play at any event at either cocktail or dinner.
Okay.
And I always get a reaction of people coming up going, okay, I've never heard that version. Who is that? I'm like, oh, it's The Commitments from like 91.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that Mustang Sally's kind of a staple. That's what they expect to hear. If you play Wilson Pickett, they're like, what is this?
But are these,
They wanna
would
hear
you
the
call
Commitments
these
version.
Northern Soul, Brian, or is this
No,
just
no,
R&B?
no. I wouldn't consider them Northern Soul because they were hits here. The whole Northern
Okay.
Soul phenomenon is
With
that
tracks that didn't hit here, but
they
hit
didn't
there.
hit here. They were throwaway tracks, and they took them and embraced them and did their thing with them.
Yeah, and I mean, Try a Little Tenderness. I still believe Michael Bublé did a great cover of this, but obviously you got to go with Otis Redding on this. But the Commitments do a great job on that track, and covering Otis Redding is not easy.
No.
So
No.
yeah, if you need some R&B redone with a kind of an Irish flair,
Yeah. Puts a little energy into them.
some heavy female vocal backing, The Commitments, and a great movie. I remember seeing it on VHS. I didn't see it in the theater, and it's just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
These are my people getting drunk and playing music. I
Yeah.
can't believe this.
all these
have-
hot broads. Yeah.
The mix, what's going on?
And when you're in that era too, I mean, you take as silly as the Animal House, great songs, and it's all old school.
It's all old school.
Yeah, a lot of it's re-recorded, like the Otis Day and the Night Shout is
Yep.
that band. But you
By,
know,
by the
guys-
way, Brian, can we just go around the room real quick? It's only one or two. You either play the Otis Day and the Nights or you play Isley's. Who plays Isley's? And the rest of you play Otis Day?
I do.
Oh, okay.
with the "Do You Want to Dance?" Yeah intro.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Because I know some DJs that are like, dude, I wouldn't play the Isleys. You only play Otis Day.
No,
I'm like,
I only played the Isleys because that was the 45 I could find that had side 1, side 2, and you had to flip it over.
Flip it.
You know,
Yeah.
that's,
Well,
in the middle of it?
that's just always been my thing.
Yeah. Now wait a minute.
And then you
Needle
flip
off.
it?
And you flip
Flip the record. Put it back on there.
And it would start the second half of the song.
So you're the DJ and you get on the microphone and you go, come on, make some noise.
I never thought of buying 2
are cheering
copies and
while
having
you're
the
doing
second
this.
one ready to go
Yes.
because that would have made more sense to have a second copy to just.
But we were
start playing
poor,
side
so we never had a second copy. We always
Yeah.
That's
two.
right.
You better hope that little, 45 spindle doesn't go bouncing on the floor. You're like, oh, I got to get that center. I got to do this by hand. I remember how to do that. Get those 45s right in the middle by hand without a little spindle thing.
That is a true story, Jay.
Wow.
That's how we did
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, hold on.
I need to
Brian's
just-
right. You get on the mic and
Give me
make
a second.
That's
No, but you hype it up and get on the mic.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Louder,
You gotta
louder.
flip the record while you're still talking on the mic and get the needle back down, then put the volume back up. It's like
so-
doing the
And
whole
guys are
doing?
complaining now about sync with mixed in key and warping their M3 processor laptop that's doing 1,000 miles an hour.
Just flipping the 45.
just flip
Back
a
in the
45,
old
man.
timey days, that's how you did it.
Back in my day.
We have a special guest who's chimed in, I assuming because he knows we were doing soundtracks. He's been patiently listening. He heard the soundtrack thing. All of a sudden, he's got.
He's going to do virtual reality or Cool World. That's my prediction.
Damon has a soundtrack for us. I know he does.
Yes, I do.
All right.
All right. And I actually like Jay, first of all, great job on the commencements. Love that soundtrack.
It's good. I'm glad you like that. It's good.
Yeah. Well, everybody's dropping some really good soundtracks. Better Off Dead. All these other ones are great soundtracks. But this one, if you're doing like an old school disco party, Thank God It's Friday soundtrack.
Oh my gosh, that's a triple album.
Yeah. That has Last Dance on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That's the 12-inch. Yeah.
That's the bonus disc. Yep.
It has
I have that
Last
here.
Dance, Too Hot to Trot by the Commodores.
Yeah.
Let me see. There's a bunch of other ones. Cameo, Find My Way. I mean, there's a ton of songs on here that you
I
can.
forgot about that.
Thank God it's
Triple album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you
forgot
just
all about that,
rock
man.
this, you know. And like I said, of course, Donna Summers has 2 songs on here.
Yeah.
Diana Ross has some songs on here. I mean, it's a great
That's a banger.
soundtrack.
Yeah, I do have a copy of that back there.
See, I figured you
Oh,
would.
yeah.
That's same here.
Is it next to Car Wash?
It's you know what? It's mom's
Car
copy.
Wash is another
of
good
Thank-
soundtrack,
It's
too.
mom's copy of Thank God It's Friday that I still have.
Oh, you stole it from mom. She's gonna be pissed.
No, it's
Where'd
just,
that record go? God damn it, Brian.
where's my record?
Right.
That's how my mom talks.
Yeah, it's
Well,
the only
I just-
soundtrack I had to drop for you guys.
That's cool. That's cool.
Hold on just one sec. I got a text from Brian Esred and said, if you get a chance, please honorable mention for Mother Jugs and Speed
Speed.
soundtrack. Okay. There. I've made the honorable mention.
At least he didn't say
One
the
track,
rhythm.
Paul Jabbar.
So I was going to mention the Cool World soundtrack, but Jay kind of cashed my thunder on that one. So
Sorry.
never mind.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
good
going
one,
to go
too.
with. I'll go with a different one that is. The movie gets a lot of slack. Wasn't the best movie in the series. Okay, was not.
Oh, I know where you're going.
But it was the second best soundtrack in the series.
I know. We all know this one.
You do. What is it?
You're going Galaxy.
No.
You're not going Guardians?
No, and I'll tell you why. I'm not going with anything that has music that was just compiled. I want original material. For mine. That's what I'm thinking in my head.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking music that was written for this film or featured in this film for the first time. Now that I'm thinking about it,
Can I guess?
well, okay, screw it. I'll do both. Okay. One's obvious. The other one's not so obvious. I'll do 2 because I can. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. So the first one, okay, I'm going to go with Prince's Batman soundtrack from 1989.
I'm sorry. I threw up in my mouth. I'm sorry.
Why?
God dance. Yeah.
You don't like
not
that?
my
I think I played that once.
It's just, that's that period that I'm just like, let's go back to playing like stuff off of Purple Rain.
Yeah, someone changed Prince's meds. Then I was kind of like, what happened?
You got to go back and try this one again because
Wait,
all
you
you're
didn't like
thinking about
Housequake?
is Bad Dance. You blew it.
Housequake
Yeah,
is great.
that's kind of. You ever have those albums that you hear the one track you hate and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to give the rest a try.
Have
and
you
you're
listened
right.
to
I need
Electric
to go.
Chair?
I don't think so.
It's a lot of people's favorite Prince song. Like when he died, a lot of people, when they interviewed him, they're like, what's your favorite Prince song? Electric Chair. Like, wow. Yeah, and I was surprised to hear that too because I loved Electric Chair. Scandalous is beautiful on that.
Yeah.
I gotta go back to this then.
There's a track called The Future that's really good.
Yeah, we can revisit some of these.
The only thing Bad Dance is almost like a mega mix of the album. You have to, in samples from the movie, that's kind of a throwaway thing. It hit number one, but it's still a throwaway thing. The rest of the album is really good. Scandalous is beautiful.
Okay. I
And
take your word for it.
On the 12-inch, it's one of his prettiest songs he ever did. I'll play it for you after the show.
All right.
And he did like a really long version of the song called Scandalous Sex Suite. And when he's doing the song, the end of it, he's actually doing Kim Basinger. He's recording her. And at the end of the album, she pops. True story.
Yeah,
So-
like a Rocket Queen.
I was just gonna say it's like Rocket Queen at 3 in the morning.
like that.
I'll play
That's
a Scandalous.
exactly what that is.
But the other one I wanted to mention was actually the Batman Forever soundtrack was really good. You had Seal's Kiss from a Rose on there.
And you
That's-
love it. I almost put Seal Up in my album, by the way.
And you know I hate
Seal
you
album.
too, but I really like their version of Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me.
Oh, I love that.
It's
track.
on there.
I forgot about that song.
Yeah, well, the whole soundtrack's good like that. Hunter
Damn
gets
it.
captured by the game. Check out the Batman Forever soundtrack. It's better than
I
you remember.
totally forgot about it because I had that on CD. I totally forgot
The
about
movie,
Now you have it on a
it's
hard
very.
drive.
It's not the best movie in the series. I understand that, but the soundtrack is very good. It's got some neat stuff on there, and it's very 1984 too.
that. Well, and you bring up an interesting point, and I don't think people today can appreciate if you're. And I know we bust age about
Offspring Smash It Up's on there. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
about age, but you have to understand we're from a period where there were tracks released on soundtrack that didn't go anywhere else. Ford Fairlane had 2 songs, Rock's Cradle of Love and Last Night in Paris. Those were never released for Billy Idol or Queensryche. So you had to buy these albums. I don't know until the greatest hits. I don't know that Phil
Into the
Collins
Greatest
released
Hits.
Against All Odds.
I don't know, or the other one, Separate Lives.
Yeah, but it's like these tracks were not what's the In Vogue track that I love that I had to buy?
It's called like Love, Don't Let Go, or something like that.
Love Don't Let Go. And I had to buy a soundtrack to a movie.
That
one. Yeah,
like the dating movie or something.
yeah.
No. It's the girls were bank robbers.
Set it off.
Some
Set it off.
yes.
There you go.
And I'm like,
Queen
I want
Latifah.
that song because I had a dancer that wanted that
But
track.
you
And I'm
have
like,
to buy these.
I had to
No, it's
buy
a
that
great
soundtrack.
song.
It's an amazing
song.
No, 100%. It's like, how is this not its own
Lyrically,
song?
it's amazing too. But yeah,
Incredible. But the only way to get it in 1995 was to go buy the soundtrack.
yeah.
When I first heard Last Night in Paris, I'm like, oh, I'll just go get the Queensryche. Nope.
Like you had to buy
American Hero, 2 Steps Behind by Def Leppard. That wasn't released till The Vault.
Right.
The other
It's
one
been a
was
long time. It's almost 20 years before that came out as on
As a
Mercury.
song.
Yeah.
You had to buy the Bright Lights Big City soundtrack with Michael J. Fox and Kiefer Sutherland
To get the
Prince's-
CeeLo Green track.
to get Prince's Good Love.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. But that track, Bright Lights Big City by CeeLo Green, I forget about that
CeeLo
track
Green
too.
back that far? That was CeeLo Green.
I believe so.
No.
I can't be
I'm alone on this one. Let's look it up.
Or it's big city.
Just
Was he
I know he
five?
does a
Probably
track. Is it a different track?
That does sound interesting.
Bright Lights Big City, CeeLo Green.
What year did that come out?
We are looking.
The
That
2000.
came out in 2010. So no.
Yeah,
that
so
would
Bright
be
Lights Big City was like
different.
97, so not the same.
Okay, so different.
But you know what else was on there that wasn't on
but
anything
it's a
else?
good track.
You know what else was on there that wasn't on anything else? You could buy the single or the album was Mars Pump Up the Volume was on Bright Lights Big City.
Oh.
You couldn't get anywhere else except
It's
the
interesting.
12-inch.
The 2 soundtracks nobody mentioned that I thought they would was Pump Up the Volume
Ooh,
That's a
that's
good
another
one.
good one. Yeah, I
And
forgot about that one.
I'm sorry, but I mentioned it to you when you mentioned Batman. I'm kind of shocked in the room that everyone was able to really mention great ones and still no one said Purple Rain.
No,
Too
no,
obvious.
I didn't.
As a
I don't.
softball, we
I don't
left that to
consider that a
Dave.
That's my
legitimate
point,
soundtrack.
Damon. That's my point. But see, that's the thing. It's a soundtrack because it's the music from the movie.
It's an ego trip. I got the real soundtrack. I want to do like a Twitch set with it or something. I've
Yeah,
got
Yeah, you
the
said
real
that. You should
soundtrack
just
I
do
want to
it.
play for
But
everybody.
you know what? You know what, Jay? With Purple Rain, I mean, if you look at the soundtrack from the movie, there's a lot of songs missing.
Des Dickerson is totally missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time is missing.
Brian, were you on that with me, Jamin? It was you. I was driving up to LAX one night and I did a show. We did
Mm,
a show with Brian, and I think it was a Tuesday. Yeah, because I had that gig, the Juneteenth gig in LA, in New York City.
yeah.
I drove to LAX and I had my phone
Yeah. I was with you on that.
in my car. Yeah, it was you, me, Brian, and somebody else. And Brian mentioned, here's the like 10 tracks that didn't make it.
Yep.
And that was the thing back then. Like, you get the Against All Odds soundtrack, it has the actual soundtrack built into the album. So
Oh, the
you get
score.
like Larry
The original
Carlton,
score and the
score.
song.
the instrumental, like the interludes and stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
But then
yeah.
they woke up and said, hey, these idiots will buy both. So we'll
Well,
release the soundtrack
nobody really usually wanted the
and
score.
then the score. But
Yeah.
but like for Against All Odds, if you ever saw it, there's a lot of beautiful guitar work.
Like Danny
It's
Elfman.
Larry Carlton.
Danny Elfman did the score for the Batman movie, and that's a separate album than
Jeez.
Prince's Batman soundtrack.
Right.
So
And that's the thing. It's like you want those tracks.
we've gone about 15 minutes over. We should probably say goodbye.
We're going to get edited.
But
We had a
before we
good
get out of
show,
here,
though,
we should at least say thank you to our sponsor, DJ
Yeah,
Event Planner.
thank
If you
you,
guys
DJ
please
Event
look
Planner,
for them
for-
in the comments down below. Want to get that in before we
Tell us your
Thank you,
favorite
DJ.
album and favorite soundtrack.
Thank you.
What
DJ
should we
Event-
check out?
Let me thank DJ Event Planner for sponsoring the show. Thank you. Check them out in the link in this description of this video and our other sponsors down there as well. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was it.
That's it.
All right. We're done.